Bonjour. Welcome to the newcomers and welcome back for the other. Today we'll try a book named The Midnight Library. I'm reading it also for the first time. Let's go. Endgame. The inside of the car was soundproofed and a glass partition cut off the front seats from the back. The only sound in the rear was Simon's game, the bleep, 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 as he worked the controls, the triumphant tiny fanfare as another dragon beat the dust. He didn't hear the crackle of wheels on gravel as the car swept up the drive to the house. His eyes were fixed on the small LCD screen of the handheld PC. He had been battling at this game for so long, but if he remembered the cheat hint on the website, the paladin must get off his horse before he walks through the gate, so that the dragon misses him when it swoops down. But do it soon, and the bridge crumbles and you fall to your death. So it has to be just right. The chauffeur opened the door and a blast of cold air hit him on the side of the face. "We're home, Master Simmons," the man said. Simon Dunn glared at him, then at the screen, just as the paladin's headless body toppled the ground. He had been distracted at exactly the wrong moment. The dragon swooped up into the air, the head clutched between its claws and dripping a digital trail of red blobs. "You're fired!" Simon shouted. "If you say so, Master Simon," the man replied. "Dinner will be at 7. Of course, Simon thought, as he slouched into the house, he didn't really have the authority to fire anyone. You couldn't do that when you were 12, but it was a nice thought, being able to control the outside world as well as he could control the one in his computers. He paused at the front door and twisted round to look back. The house was set high above the tree line and overlooked the entire town. Down there, Simon thought, there were other people. He bit his lip. His schoolmates were down there, people with lives, people with each other. It was lonely thought, but Simon had not good at turning the lonely thought against themselves. Yes, they had each other, he told himself, but they lived their lives crammed together, constantly rubbing shoulders, constantly in each other's way. But up here he was free, above them all, looking down on them all. He had tried inviting some of them back to his place once. Mom had suggested it. She had probably read it in a book on child development. Encourage your child to make friends. But none of them had come, even though Simon had described the huge television set, his vast library of game and DVDs. He had even exaggerated a tiny bit. He didn't really have a den with flat-screen television on every wall showing a dozen different channels at once. But no, none of them had been interested. Well, let them stay away, he decided, as he turned back to the house. Simon wouldn't let himself envy them. He had something that was better than anything they had. Something that was, in every sense, better than reality. Hello, Simon, and welcome to BetterThanRealityGames.world. If you're not Simon, then click here. The words flashed on the screen as Simon loaded the browser and settled down in front of his computer. He had set BetterThanRealityGames.world at his homepage, and The house had fastest broadband connection you could get. He just had to turn the computer on, and there it was. The glow of the monitor was the only light in Simon's room. The bright reds and green and yellows washed across his face, and he smiled. The sight was more reliable than any friend, warm and inviting and always there for him. It had been a typical evening. Homework, play games, eat, play more games, all supervised by the butler, Templeton, and Mr. Solomon, the housekeeper. Dad was still at the bank, and Mom was out doing her charity work. Then, at 9:30 sharp, bedtime, the servants wouldn't fuss if he stayed up, but his parents might if they happened to come home. They'd remember something they had once heard about bedtimes, like they were good parents or something. But better than reality games.world was how Simon always ended his day. These games were definitely better than reality, better than anything else in his life. In fact, games that made you think. Game you couldn't just walk through. Games that were never the same twice. As it always did, his mouse cursor hung over the link for custom-made games. He had gone there once before, but one look at the prices had changed his mind. If only there were a free sample or demo. But no, once you got past the prices, you had to enter your card details. He didn't have a credit card, and he knew from experience there would be hell to pay if he entered Mom's or Dad's. That was one definite way of getting their attention, but it had drawbacks, like having his PC taken for a week. He sighed. And there was a knock at the door. It opened a crack, and a woman's head poked round it. She had long, brown hair and white-spaced, hazel eyes, just like Simon. Simon jumped up. "Mom!" "Hello, darling. Still up?" Miss Dunn didn't come into the room. "I haven't seen much of you lately, have I? Go to bed now, and we'll have a good matter in the morning. Good night." The door closed before Simon could get a word in edgeways. He turned back to the computer and logged off. "Good natter in the morning," he muttered to himself. Sure, except that by the time he was up, she'd have some new emergency to deal with, and she'd have already left for the office. Her charity work looked after crises all around the world. Anything from distressed dolphins to Guatemalan orphans. Anything that wasn't him. He switched the monitor off, and the room was left in darkness. Something was shining through Simon's eyelid. He pried them open and peered sleepily across the room. The monitor was on again, and the familiar bright colors of Better Than Reality Games.world were splashed around in the room. Simon frowned. He was sure he had turned it off. He curled up into a ball and pulled the duvet over his head. Somehow, the light still got him, and he couldn't get back to sleep. He threw the cover back angrily. He would have to turn the thing off properly, and this time pull the plug to make sure. But when he approached the computer, what he saw wasn't the usual welcome screen. "Hello, Simon. As one of our most valued customers, we want to offer you a free custom-made game. Just fulfill in the boxes below, and your free custom-made game will be posted directed to you." "Free, huh?" Simon muttered. One thing he had learned a long time ago was that no successful company ever gave you something that was really free. But he would play along until he found what the catch was, then pull out. So he sat down and placed his hand on the mass. First, there was all the demographic guff. Age, gender, occupation, in other words, stuff that will go straight to the marketing department so that they could spam him forever. He declared himself to be an 80-year-old widow employed as a brain surgeon on £1 million a year. Then came the more important items. Your game. Would you like your game to be tame or dangerous? Oh, please, Simon thought. He ticked dangerous without even thinking about it. Would you like your game to be set in your hometown, a generic town, or a fantasy world? The cursor hovered over fantasy world. Set a game in his town? Yeah, right, Simon snorted. His town was... But now I came to think of it, his town was exactly the kind of place I could do with a game being set there to liven it up a bit. So he clicked the Hometown tab. Would you like your game to be reality-based or as real as life? Simon frowned. What was the difference? Then he thought of those tedious arcade games where you control a skateboarder zooming forever around a fantasy arena, or an unseen gunman blasting away at crooks and aliens in an endless maze. Those were reality-based, and you soon got the hang of them, until you realized they were all basically the same thing over and over. Whereas, if anything could be said for real life, it was that each day could be completely different from the one before. So, Simon moved the cursor over real life and clicked.